Hey everyone, welcome to today's explainer of the May 29, 2026 tech news landscape. Today, we're going to explore how massive events across a bunch of different industries prove that rapid adaptation is, well, it's literally the only way to survive. We're looking at a day that could very well define the trajectory of the entire tech sector for years to come. Here's what we're covering today. The trillion-dollar AI race, Blue Origin's explosive setback, Apple reimagining iOS with AI, a massive security disclosure debate, and Glean's enterprise AI victory. Let's just jump right in. First up, the trillion-dollar AI race, and Anthropic's historic shift. So Anthropic literally just closed a jaw-dropping $65 billion funding round. That pushes their post-money valuation to a staggering $965 billion. I mean, they are right on the edge of that mythical $1 trillion mark for a private company. To wrap your head around that, we're talking about a number that rivals the entire GDP of Switzerland. It's bigger than the combined market cap of all U.S. airlines, and it even surpasses the U.S. defense budget. It is just an astronomical show of investor confidence. It's a fascinating dynamic, honestly. In just 3 months, Anthropic officially surpassed OpenAI's $852 billion valuation. How'd they pull it off? They adapted. While OpenAI doubled down on consumer artificial general intelligence, Anthropic took a sharp pivot towards safety and securing long-term Fortune 500 enterprise contracts. They've already snagged about 180 of them, which really proves that sustainable, positive cash flow is what's winning the race right now. And along with that mountain of cash, they dropped Claude Opus 4.8. They've essentially made honesty their killer feature here, fundamentally shifting the AI product paradigm. Instead of trying to sweep AI hallucinations under the rug, Opus 4.8 is actually 4 times less likely to hide its mistakes. It's trained to just tell you when it's unsure, rather than making up a confident-sounding lie. For sensitive industries like healthcare or finance, that absolute reliability is a total game-changer. So, what's the big takeaway here? The global AI market has finally grown up. To win enterprise adoption today, you absolutely need safety, transparency, and reliable integration, not just raw, unpredictable compute power. Anthropic is betting the house on honest AI, and it's completely defining the next phase of the industry. Moving on to our second story, Blue Origin's explosive setback and the very real cost of stagnation. While AI is learning to be honest about its limits, let's see what happens when a space company refuses to adapt its culture. Let's break down this catastrophic hotfire test from May 28th down at Cape Canaveral. At 9:03 p.m., an anomaly popped up in the engine cluster of Jeff Bezos' massive 320-foot New Glenn rocket. Literally 1 minute later, a massive explosion. It completely wiped out the rocket, the launch pad, and 48 Amazon LEO satellites. People were feeling the shockwave up to 10 miles away. By 10:30 p.m., it was confirmed as an absolute total loss. This disaster highlights a really stark contrast in the modern space race. You've got SpaceX, who adapted over the years by embracing this fail fast, learn faster vibe, and they're sitting on 127 orbital launches in 2026 alone. Then there's Blue Origin. They actually started 2 years before SpaceX, but they've taken this incredibly cautious, secretive route. Ironically, moving at a snail's pace didn't stop a disaster. It just meant that when they finally did fail, it cost them an estimated $2.5 billion, set them back up to 2 years, and they still have exactly 0 orbital launches to their name. Why does this matter? Because having bottomless pockets cannot buy you space dominance. Sure, Bezos has the money to recover, but to actually survive, you have to build an organizational culture that thrives on rapid iteration, speed of learning, and risk tolerance. You just can't buy that. All right, on to Section 3. Apple reimagines iOS with AI. Shifting from rockets back to the phones in our pockets, let's see how Apple is adapting. So, a huge Bloomberg leak just dropped, revealing that iOS 27 is going to completely overhaul the iPhone experience. They are finally rescuing Siri from that annoying full-screen takeover and baking it right into an animated dynamic island. We're also seeing an AI camera that analyzes your scenes in real time for better shots, plus a super deep, privacy-first ChatGPT integration that seamlessly hands off complex questions to OpenAI. Looking at the pros and cons, it's pretty clear Apple is aggressively adapting to the AI era. They are finally gunning for Google Pixel's camera tech and making Siri genuinely useful. But they are doing it the Apple way, fiercely protecting their core moat of user privacy by anonymizing all data sent to ChatGPT. The catch here? All this heavy on-device AI lifting means you'll probably need an A17 Pro chip or newer, so older iPhone users are likely going to be left behind. The big takeaway from this leak is that Apple is setting a brand new industry standard for how AI lives on our devices. It has to be smart, it has to be incredibly private, and it needs to be entirely under user control. It just proves that even the absolute biggest, most successful tech giants on Earth have to fundamentally evolve to stay relevant today. Next up, Section 4, the security disclosure debate. Transparency versus safety. Because as software adapts, the threats adapt too. This story really makes us ask where the ethical line is drawn. A security researcher going by the name Nightmare Eclipse basically went rogue. They publicly dropped some severe zero-day vulnerabilities for Windows Defender and BitLocker straight onto GitHub. Why? Because they claimed Microsoft's Security Response Center just sent them automated replies and ignored them for 3 straight months. Microsoft's response was to have GitHub, which they own, remember, completely ban the researcher's account. And look, these aren't just minor bugs. We are talking about terrifying kernel-level exploits. That is the deepest, most privileged layer of your computer. You got Blue Hammer bypassing real-time protection, Yellow Key literally yanking BitLocker encryption keys right out of memory, and Ghost Access creating permanent system backdoors. Millions of users are at immediate risk right now, which is exactly why this debate is exploding. There is a very real tension here when you look at how bugs get reported. On one hand, private disclosure keeps users safe while patches are built, but it lets corporate giants drag their feet indefinitely. On the other hand, public disclosure forces accountability immediately, but it also instantly hands a loaded weapon to bad actors to attack everyday users. Coordinated disclosure is the balanced ideal, but it requires everyone to play nice, and according to Nightmare Clips, that cooperation was completely missing here. Finally, Section 5, Glean's Enterprise AI Victory. Let's look at the ultimate underdog masterclass for our Adapt or Die theme. While we were all distracted watching heavyweights like Anthropic and OpenAI duke it out, this enterprise startup named Glean was quietly crushing it. They tripled their annual recurring revenue from $100 million in February 2025 right up to $300 million in May 2026. That is just 15 months to become one of the fastest growing enterprise software companies we have ever seen. It's a classic David versus Goliath matchup. Glean is straight up beating Microsoft 365 Copilot and Google Workspace AI. How are they doing it? They built this proprietary context graph that sits right between the user and the data. It slashes their compute costs by up to 70%, gives you lightning-fast answers in under 2 seconds, hits a 92% accuracy rate, and they do it all with zero data retention. It's brilliant. So what's the lesson from Glean's massive $7.2 billion valuation? You do not have to build an everything app. You don't need to fight the tech giants on every single front. If you can find one specific enterprise problem, like internal search, and solve it with ridiculous cost efficiency and specialization, that is exactly how startups win today. When you tie all these incredible stories together, the reality of May 29, 2026 is crystal clear. Whether you're training trillion-dollar AI models, shooting rockets into space, coding up mobile operating systems, or just trying to secure our data, your survival comes down entirely to rapid adaptation. The established playbooks of yesterday are literally being thrown out the window. I'll leave you with this final thought. As the gap between the companies adapting and the one standing still widens faster than ever, powerful tools are becoming more accessible to everyone, but the bar for survival is sky high. So, how are you going to adapt to make sure you aren't left behind? Thanks for tuning in to today's explainer, and keep learning.